Yo, yo. How are all you beautiful people doing out there today? Oh, been quite a week. Quite a week. We give it about 2-3 minutes before I start. I'm gonna try and keep this stream short. I may have a guest on at the end of the stream just to talk for a minute, but yeah, I'm gonna try and keep it short. Man, it's been a lot of things happening. Obviously, between the news that we're going to be talking about with the situation that happened in Texas, and then between my personal life and work life and things, a lot, but nothing at the same time. If that makes sense. I've been in a weird place lately in terms of just like, I guess mentally, you could say. Like, it's like I'm in that phase at my job now, where I'm just like, the days just peel by. You feel me? Like, oh, today's Wednesday. I thought it was Monday or Tuesday. Like, I'm in that phase, kind of like just you know, going, I guess. Like uncontrollably going. Um, no consciousness there. I don't know if that's good or bad. I literally feel like a bot or a cog in the machine. Honestly, I feel like that's why I haven't been doing the stream a lot either. Because while I still talk about these topics with my friends and with other people, and I still do scroll on Twitter. I watch some political people. Like I've been watching Richard Medhurst a lot lately, and Jamal Charles as well. But still, I don't know. I feel I feel like I'm in the mood to really get back into educating myself more. I've gotten back into reading like a lot of the books I was reading again. Right now I'm about to start reading a new book. What is the book called? The 18th Brumaire, the Bonapartism book that Marx wrote. I'm about to read that. Yeah, I don't know. It's just very weird times that we're in, I guess. But let's just go ahead and get into it. I guess let's just go ahead and start talking about this stuff. So, as a lot of you know, the kind of mediocre, that at best, mediocre at best. That wasn't mediocrity. That was cowardice, if you ask me. But we're gonna get into it. But as a lot of you know, there was another mass shooting in Texas. Um, 21 people killed. I think two teachers, 19 kids. Again, 19 kids. Guy, I'm not going to sit here and pretend the guy is a bitch. Like they're saying he was bullied at high school, which led to him dropping out, all this shit. On his way, he shot his grandmother in the face. I noticed he did it when his grandfather wasn't around. His grandfather probably would have fucked him up before that even happened. Damn, it's a thunderstorm going on. It was like a big thunder roll. I don't know if you guys heard it. If the stream cuts, I'm sorry, guys. But the guy was a bitch, in my opinion. But the fact that this is like what I think they said it's like the 214th mass shooting. It's insanity. This is a strictly American thing. Actually, let me pull this up. So it was a Bloomberg article, but I just want the map. They literally showed a map of like registered, like where you had to get a license in order to get a gun. Give me 1 second. I found this interesting. No, I don't actually want to. Why would you? Internet is so annoying sometimes. There was like a map. It was in Bloomberg. I don't know. But bottom line, the point I was trying to make is I think this is a strictly American thing. This is a strictly American problem. Our worship of guns, our worship of violence. And no, I'm a pro two-way person for the most part. I think a person, they should be able to get a gun to protect themselves, in their homes and things like that. But these super duper like to the extreme pro 2A people are just completely and utterly ridiculous. Like literally, they go overboard with it. But in terms of what's going on right now, how we're seeing this, it's a very interesting situation to have. So I'm going to get into multiple different layers of this in a quick manner, fairly quick manner. I'm not going to, whatever. I want to get into it. I ramble a lot. I notice during these streams, but the fact that like right now, there was like an NBA player. He made the point that like right now, it's easier to get a gun than it is to get baby formula. Like that, things like that. Like it can come off as just a soundbite, but when you actually sit and live with that for a minute, you let it live in your brain for a minute, you come to the inescapable conclusion that, damn, this dude's kind of right. This nigga's right, and he is. And it's like, it's very easy for people to virtue signal, like you're saying Beto O'Rourke. Like, actually, let's go ahead and peep that. Beto O'Rourke is out here doing his like tap dance. Now he's a politician, he's not a celebrity, but as I like to say, Washington D.C. is Hollywood for ugly people. um, but actually, we'll get to Beto in a minute. I just want to talk for a minute to you guys. So, all that being said, it's very fascinating. It's very fascinating to see this situation basically throw us into another abortion debate, basically another wedge issue. It's almost by design. So it's not surprising to me that I hear people saying, "Oh, the government," like Joshie, the CEO, he in the chat, shouts out to him. He's actually going to be the guest we're going to have on later, hopefully, if he still can. But he was like, the government really working overtime. And I wouldn't put it past the government, but I think that's too easy. That's too easy. That's too easy of an out, not just for the government, but for the American people. Because while I'm not here to blame the American people for mass shootings, it was good, Hamza, was good, bro. I'm not here to blame Americans for mass shootings at all. Well, not in the most part. I am here to say that the divisions and the debates we have about mass shootings and guns in America, it's very shallow. It's very like there's no substance there. It's literally like take all the guns away. Yeah. It's either take all the guns away or it's no, we can't take the guns. It's a very very arbitrary arguments going on. It's very like it's like the abortion debate basically, just culture it devolves in a culture war drivel. And I find it interesting that when it was the Buffalo shooter, race and white supremacy was a thing that the media was pushing, but now that the kid was Latino, like that's nowhere to be seen and it's strictly just about gun control. Now, that's not me saying that um white supremacy doesn't exist. White supremacy is a thing. I'm not denying that. But um the fact that the media only cares and politicians and the political apparatus only cares when it's politically beneficial for them to weaponize it against their political enemies. And that's just a fact. And we're seeing that play out with the gun debate right now. So, what happened was a tragedy, obviously. But the crazy part is that you're now seeing, well, not crazy, the obvious and what happens all the time. Do you watch Doctor? I don't watch Boyce Watkins, honestly. Boyce is he's trash. Yeah, black guns do matter. Like I said, I'm pro 2A. I just think there needs to be common sense with guns. Like this is like this is like the fact that this is a strictly American thing that happens mostly in America when it comes to guns and shit like that. Like he wouldn't have killed as many people if he had a knife. Like people like to make the argument, well, people will still knife, of course, but he wouldn't have gotten to as many people if he actually had to use a fucking knife. So, and I'm not saying get rid of guns or anything like that. What I'm saying is like this nigga was 18 and went and bought an AR. I don't know, man. Boyce Watkins, he iffy, bro. Especially the way he did Tyler. I remember the way he did Tyler and shit like that. We need more people like Naj. Who's Naj? I don't know who Naj is. But I'll get to your comments, Hamza. Like I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to get through the monologue. But where was I? Yeah, like we like. I was about to say we live in a society. But yeah, it's very it's very funny to see. And honestly, I was mod sure okay. I was on Twitter. There's these big the roaring debates that's usually on Twitter, and a couple of the things on there I found very interesting. Like I know Compton J. I'm sharing my screen now, guys. Compton J posted this, and this is like very interesting. I find this very interesting because this is and he put American exceptionalism. It's facts. You have the mass shooting, you have the media extravaganza that we're in now, the thoughts and prayers phase that we're in. Now I like this is all the thing. The social media gun debates, no one actually does anything, back to normal, then the mass shooting happens again. That is pretty much what happens in America. It's pretty much what happens. And you have the politicians on both sides. We're gonna get. I'm gonna show you that Ted Cruz clip. I know you saw it, but we're gonna get to that. But actually, let me make sure that they have my audio's good. Okay, yeah, we're good. Um, sorry guys, I wanted to make sure I should have checked that before I started. Um, there was not a Oh, I have it here. I have it queued up. I'm dumb. So here you have on the liberal side, you have, I feel like this pretty much encapsulates how liberals are reacting right now. So I feel like liberals are reacting kind of especially the white ones are reacting in a very like gotcha kind of way, coming off the abortion thing, like just to be petty. Like I woke up and chose pettiness this morning instead of actually choosing principled stances and morality. This is Beto O'Rourke launching his next governor run, probably. Beto O'Rourke, better known as Texas Juan Guaido. I feel like that pretty much encapsulates how liberals are treating the situation. They're treating it as a platform shit on Republicans, basically. Uh, word. Um, yeah. They're using it as as a platform to grandstand and shit on Republicans. Basically, that's what they're doing. They're not actually going to do anything about it. That's on the liberal side, and they I found this video hilarious. This is Ted Cruz that I'm about to share. I know you guys saw it, but I'll go ahead and share it again, maybe. All right, but give me 1 second. Pulling it up. Yeah, here we go. Hmm, interesting. Give me 1 second, guys. This thing's acting dumb. It's acting dumb today again. Here we go. So this is the conservative side of the argument, how they're reacting to it. They're not handling it well when you see this video. It's Ted Cruz.
There are 19 sets of parents who are never going to get to kiss their child.
Get this man an Oscar, bro. You see how he's doing like the little acting like this. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit.
Good night again.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
You know, it's easy to go to politics.
But it's important. It's at the heart of the issue.
I get that that's where the media likes to go.
No, it's not. It's where many of the people we've talked to here like to go.
The proposals from Democrats in the media, inevitably, when some violent psychopath murders people.
A violent psychopath who's able to get a weapon so easily. 18-year-old with 2 AR-15s.
If you want to stop violent crime, the proposals the Democrats have, none of them would have stopped this.
Honestly, I'm honestly surprised he didn't bring up Chicago in that sentence. So that's the conservatives and the conservatives and a lot of the right people like to bring. Well, what about you talk about all this? What about Chicago? And that's not the beauty of it. Let me not use that. That's bad wording. That is the opportunity that this specific shooting gives, is that it's a Latino kid. So you can't really like play the race card with this and on either side. So one side can't just, chalk it up to white supremacy, and the other side can't just chalk it up to what about Chicago, basically trying to shit on black people and minorities. I feel like this situation is forcing people to actually sit and think about this shit. Why did that just happen? I don't know why that just happened. Yeah, you can still see it. That's weird. But yeah. So that is very fascinating to me. Well, actually, let me finish. Let's finish.
It's important. It's at the
some violent psychopath murders people.
A violent psychopath who's able to get a weapon so easily. 18-year-old with 2 AR-15s.
If you want to stop violent crime, the proposals the Democrats have, none of them would have stopped this.
But why does this only happen in your country? I really think that's what many people around the world just, they cannot fathom. Why only in America? Why is this American exceptionalism so awful?
Why do you zoom in on his face like that?
I'm sorry you think American exceptionalism is awful.
I think this aspect.
You get your political agenda.
No, it's honestly,
God love you,
Senator. It's not.
God loves you. I fucking hate your guts, though. See, it's very weird. Like this guy, he's literally asking. So they shit on the media all the time, rightfully so, justified. This guy's actually asking good questions. Actually, he's asking questions that I hear a lot of Americans on both sides of the aisle asking right now. And this is full sell how this guy handles it. Now, he's an establishment Republican. I can honestly easily see the Trump crowd if he says the wrong thing. I believe they've even called Ted Cruz a rhino at times. So trying to fit him into that like Trump bubble is very weird, because while he does cock ride Donald Trump, at the same time he slips up and said shit because he doesn't actually like Donald Trump. If you saw the Republican primaries and saw how Donald Trump basically treated this guy like his little bitch. This guy's no fan of Donald Trump, but he recognizes that his political career hinges on gargling Donald Trump's nuts. So he's going to continue to do that as best as he can. And I will tell you right now, not from experience, but just from the outside looking in, I am not a watcher though. He's not very good at it. But this is like a traditional bullshit conservative Republican answer. So
I just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem.
Why is this just an American problem?
And you see another journalist confronts him with the question as well.
Just an American problem, sir.
Mr. Cruz, why is America the only country that faces this kind of mass shooting?
But you can't answer that. You can't answer that, can you, sir? You can't answer that. Why is this?
Why is it that people come from all over the world to America? Because it's the freest, most prosperous, safest country on earth.
It may be the freest. It may be the most popular.
There it is. There it is. American exceptionalism rears its head from Ted Cruz's mouth as he gets on his knees and heads to the back to give Donald Trump his daily washing. But yeah, so I find that very interesting with Ted Cruz. He hits you with the daily dose of bullshit with American exceptionalism there. But it's very ironic that he talks about that, because I was literally not watching, but I mean, it depends on what type of drugs you're talking about, Hamza, honestly. Like, and drugs have different reactions on people. So you can't I don't think you could just wholesale blame. But I'll get to your comment. I promise you I will answer some of your comments at the end. So with Ted Cruz, though, it's very fascinating that he brings up that American exceptionalist drivel, because the point that I feel is very important to talk out. So, for example, when people bring up Chicago, it's it's very rarely talked about how, like they talk about the illegal guns on the conservative side. Well, these are illegal guns, da da da. Like, these people are buying illegal guns. All right, how are those illegal guns getting there? Where farmer drugs? I feel you. I definitely feel you there, bro. I feel you there. But it's rarely talked about the inflow of illegal guns coming straight from the United States government or the fucking police. We're going to get to the police in a minute. But literally, I was reading a story in Baltimore about how the cops were involved in this like drug trafficking and gun running ring. Like they were the ringleaders of this shit. They were taking the guns from there when they take the guns off the street and reselling them back on the street, on the streets. It's crazy. So that you have that factor. You have the fast and furious type situations that all of our presidents have been doing, since Contra, probably before, but you have a lot of those Contra guns funneling back in. Our government funds certain cartels to fight cartels that they don't like, or fund certain drug gangs to overthrow, Latin American democratically elected government. Like, this has been going on forever. And a lot of those illegal guns come back into the country. So if we're going to have a real conversation about Chicago, that's the conversation. We need to bring that up as well, because that's a very important part that plays a factor in that. But again, they can't bring that up though. They can't bring up Chicago because, again, this is a Latino kid who bought the guns legally through his name. His grandfather didn't know about it, so apparently his grandfather actually was a former felon, so he can't have guns in his household. So he said if he had known about it, he would have reported it. That's another thing though. Why wasn't the grandfather around? So he apparently had a falling out with his mother, and he ended up moving with his grandparents and was living with his grandparents, but he got kicked out of high school, or he dropped out, whatever. So he wasn't going to school and just sitting at home all day. So it's like, okay, that's interesting. Like that's a interesting dynamic, because I feel like that's a lot of kids in America. Like, I grew up around my grandparents. My mother was in the household. Me and my mom have a good relationship. And I even had contact with my father. He wasn't like around, but I had contact with him. But I can definitely see, like, the grandparents, they can't keep it. Like, just if I was just raised by my grandparents, I would have been a bigger dick as a kid. Like, not school shooter dick. Like, just I would have been out here wilding, bro, on some shit that I already was in high school. And I wasn't that bad in high school, honestly. But yeah, I would have been worse if I was just living with my grandparents. And like, they cannot keep up with it, and especially when it's the Zoomers. Like, I'm pretty much a millennial. These motherfuckers grew up with like social media, like they were born with it. Their grandparents are not keeping up with this kid at all. So it's like, you bring in that factor. I wonder how much the grandfather was working, if he had to work a lot to provide for the family, so he wasn't able to be there to instill, to be there as a man, the male man figure for that guy. But again, I'm not making excuses for that guy. But the American exceptionalist aspect is so crazy that Ted Cruz is just ignoring the fact that there are a lot of parents, that are afraid to send their kids to school now. That's just a fact. We can talk about the possible angles on this situation. They could talk like why it's being politicized, but I think when you, again, like I said at the top of this, when you strictly try to place it on the government setting things up, arranging things up, things like that, and I'm not making that proposal, but I've heard that, I think you're genuinely ignoring, like, it's kind of like a deflection from how sick and perverse this country actually is when it comes to our infatuation with violence, and it's like they try to pretend like it's this far, fetch thing. It's just like, where does this come from? Dog, we are a mass murdering, genocidal, maniacal country. Like, we go around, like, we do this to kids every day. Like, there's how many mass shootings by us on other countries happen every day. Like, we facilitate these things. Israel bombs the capital of Syria every day. We're helping commit a genocide in Yemen right now. Like, we're a bloodthirsty, violent, maniacal country. Just the fact of the matter. Look at our fucking media. There's things we like. Most people can't sit through a fucking movie if there's not a fight scene in it where two buff guys are beating the shit out of each other. Or John Wick is like blowing people's heads off for killing his fucking dog. Yeah, spoiler alert, the dog dies. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make a joke about this. I'm not, but what I'm saying is like, look at our culture, dog. Like, it's not surprising at all. And then, like Hamza brought up, we drug everybody to fuck up. When they start realizing, yo, society's kind of fucked, you drug everybody to fuck up. Go be a cog in the wheel. And this all serves capitalism and the capitalists and the oligarchs. But let's take that a step further. Let's take that idea and thought a step further. Now, another part of the story that a lot of people are talking about um, is the aspect of the police, which I think is very important to talk about. I have gone on quite a journey, especially as a black dude, when it comes to police. When I was younger, I was always told, fuck cops. That's just how it was. Family moved us out to the suburbs. We moved into a suburban area with a lot of white people here. I would say a predominantly white area. It's a good portion of black people here, but when I first moved here, it was a lot more white people than the black white ratio wasn't like it is now, where there's a fair amount of black people where I live at, but for the most part, white people. And I grew up around cops. Some of my mentors when I played in the police league basketball. I still talk to these guys nowadays. Some of these cops that that mentored me when I was younger, and I still have respect for these guys, but their profession, not so much. One of my childhood friends who lived around the corner from me used to shoot at this basketball hoop. We used to hang out. His dad was a cop, black guy too. He always talked to us. Set a good example because I was a badass in my neighborhood a lot. But I was a little shit, but he was that type of figure. And when I was younger, I didn't have interactions with cops in the inner city when I lived in Philly. And also when I was like real young when I lived in DC and things like that. So I never really had interactions with cops like that. So when I got older and the interactions with police I had were always positive. Yeah. Were always positive. So it was like I grew up coming from being taught to hate cops and having certain experiences with cops, positive experiences with cops. I was like, what are people talking about with police? Like, they're not bad. And then, like, when I started doing my research on it, I would say around my senior year of high school, like, started doing research on it. It was this girl in my high school who was super, like, politically woke and things like that. And it's kind of funny now because it's like, she's like the bad type of woke in many aspects, in many ways. But yeah, started looking into it. I'm like, yo, police are kind of dicks. And then I was like, back to fuck 12 again, basically. And that's where I've been ever since. But it's just very fascinating to see the way the cops handled this situation. Because in this situation, and honestly, if you ask me, a lot of situations, it proves my point that I say cops are pussies. Cops are cowards. And the reason why I say that is because these niggas stood outside for a whole hour while this nigga went in and killed kids. Bro, what? And even was arresting parents, stopping them from going in to save their kids while these niggas stood outside. I heard they even tried to stop Border Patrol from going in so they can assess the situation. Nigga, he's in there killing kids, bro. Like, there's phone calls coming from kids in the classroom. One of the kids called the cops, and they're not knowing they're sitting outside watching you get shot. It's craziness. It's madness. And I have a couple videos about that, actually. Where's it at? I think it's in my bookmark section. We gonna set, guys, so I can find this Johnski for y'all. Oh, that's a good one too. We're gonna get to. Where's this John at? I'm trying to find it, guys. Give me 1 second. Here it is. Actually, I'm gonna show you an article, then read through this article, then show y'all the video. Yeah, guns are they're not a left right issue. Yeah, Hamza, I feel you, bro. I feel you. And like I said, I'm pro 2A, but I'm pro common sense 2A. Like we don't need bro. At this point, the people making the argument about guns in reference to protecting themselves from the government are retarded. I'm sorry. That's the most retarded shit I've ever heard in my life, bro. Before you get a chance to pick up your AR, and I want an AR, I want one. This is coming from a nigga that want one. Like I'm a get one as long as they're still legal. Like I'm one of them niggas. I'm not gonna be out protesting to ban ARs, is what I'm saying. But if they ban it, I'm like, all right, makes sense. I'm not gonna be too mad about it. The point I make, I think you should be able to have handguns, shotgun, and if you live in the countryside, a hunting rifle and shit like that. The point that I'm making is that nigga, an 18-year-old with clear mental shit going on, but not documented, so it didn't pop up on his record, was able to go and buy this shit and go do what he did. That's the point I'm making. So I'm not saying ban all the guns. Like I said, man, whatever happens with the guns, outside of wholesale banning guns, period, like that'll be something I get in the streets and protest against. I'm with you. But this argument that you're going to protect yourself from the fucking government with an AR, it's ridiculous, bro. It's like, what? Bro, what? How's that faring for the Ukrainians? Hell, completely being honest, how is that faring for the Ukrainians right now? We talk about the Ukraine, how they're getting their asses whooped. They have, I would assume, maybe not now, better guns than like ARs from shit like that. They have military grade rifles from NATO. They should, at least, because I saw a picture. Nico House was showing like pictures with these niggas with like paintball guns and shit. I don't even know if that was like, he was making a joke. Nico's fucking hilarious, bro. I love Nico. But regardless, like, that's not faring well for the Ukrainians. Is basically the point that I'm making. And then on top of that, these niggas got drones, bro. Like, that's where I'm like, dog, you're not like, at this point, you're buying a gun for the protection of your home, for like home invaders and shit. If you live in like the country or the mountains where you have like wild animals that will fuck you up. I get it. I get it. I get that. Like, I feel like niggas in the country would need an AR if a fucking bear ran up on them or some shit like that. Whatever. But regardless, that's just the point I'm making. But let me read through this article. Hamza, I love you, bro. I love your comments, bro. Yeah, I want to have you. I'm gonna have you on one stream if you're willing to come on. If you're willing to hop on and have a chat. But let me get through this because I want to have our guest on. I don't know if he's gonna be able to now because it's kind of late. I started to John late. But onlookers urged police to charge into the Texas school. Frustrated onlookers urged police officers to charge into the Texas elementary school where a gunman's rampage killed 19 children and 2 teachers, witnesses said Wednesday, as investigators worked to track the massacre that lasted upwards of 40 minutes and ended when the 18-year-old shooter was killed by a border patrol team. Go in there. Nearby women shouted at the officers soon after the attack began, said Juan Carranza, who's 24. Who saw the scene from outside his house across the street from Robb Elementary School in the close-knit town of Uvalde. Carranza said the officers did not go in. Javier Cazares, whose 4th grade daughter, Jacqueline Cazares, was killed in the attack, said he raced to the school when he heard about the shooting, arriving while police were still gathered outside the building. Upset that police were not moving in, he raised the idea of charging into the school with several other bystanders. It's just the parents. Basically talking about doing what the cops should be doing. Kill said he raised it when he heard about the shit. Where were we at? Let's just rush in because the cops aren't doing anything like they're supposed to do, he said. More could have been done. They were unprepared, he added. Minutes earlier, Carranza had watched as Salvador Ramos crashed his truck into a ditch outside the school, grabbed his AR style, and did what he did. Officials say he encountered a school security officer outside the school though there were conflicting reports from authorities on whether the men exchanged gunfire. After running inside, he fired on two arriving Uvalde police officers who were outside the building, said Texas Department of Public Safety spokesperson Travis Considine. The police were injured. After entering the school, Ramos charged into one classroom and began to kill. He barricaded himself by locking the door and just started shooting children and teachers that were inside that classroom. Lieutenant Christopher Oliveras of the Department of Public Safety, told CNN. It just shows you the complete evil of the shooter. All those were killed in the same classroom, he said. So the article goes on. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but you get the gist. The cops stood outside and let this guy do what he did. Now, take that nugget, right? So now that it's been, the cops have been exposed as being basically pussies and allowing this guy to kill fucking kids, we have this video coming out. Where's it at? Here we go. We have this video. They're arresting a parent.
Come on, guys, parar, güey. Really shooting.
So you get the gist. They're blocking parents. They had one parent on the ground arresting them, probably for trying to break through to, I don't know, go save their fucking kids. And it looks like they even tased the guy because he has his taser out to go fight parents. Not only did cops with long guns have their tasers out ready to stop parents from saving their own children, it looks like the cops have one parent pinned to the ground. You can hear one person yell, "What the fuck are you doing to him? Let him up." That's amazing. So any image you have in your mind that they try to put in your mind of like cops, you know, from John McClane to Mike Lowry to even Paul Blart, oh, the fat cop, but he's actually like capable. No, they're not. Because here you have a guy who's in a building killing kids. Anybody, the most pro-black anti-cop person will look at this situation and say, go kill that nigga. Anybody. This is your moment to be the hero that they try to say cops are, you know, the lifesavers they try to say cops are, and you fold like a house of fucking cards. Some of these guys have assault rifles on them themselves. And you're standing outside. Mind-blowing. Completely and utterly mind-blowing. There's no other word that describes that except pussy. I'm sorry. Because if I have an assault rifle and I know there's kids, even if I didn't, if I was John Wick, I had a fucking pencil. And I knew there was a fucking guy in there killing kids, I'm going in. Oh, I think any rational human being of character and courage would. And it does take courage to do that. But that's apparent. That's what they tell us cops are supposed to be. And Nico House, he had the perfect tweet. I may have to look it up because he had the perfect tweet that sums this up, and I thought it was perfect. It perfectly summed up. If he pops up, I mean, Nico had the best tweet that sums this up. Where's it at? This tweet sums it up perfectly. Police are brave as fuck when they can gun down an unarmed citizen running for their life. But an 18-year-old with no training threatening to shoot dozens of elementary school children. Let's just wait outside and see how this plays out. And I like this little gift there too. Cops be like, "We're all gonna die." Yeah, that pretty much sums up that situation. But it doesn't end there. So the cops, basically, with our own lying eyes, the people see these cops getting exposed as being a bunch of pussies, the pussies that they are, the unprepared bitch ass pussies that they are. Here is their response. This is the cops' response.
Suspected of where we knew the shooter entered, Ramos, was propped open by a teacher. 11:28, the suspect vehicle crashes into the ditch, as previously described. The teacher runs to the room 132 to retrieve a phone, and that same teacher walks back to the exit door, and door remains propped open. Suspected of where we knew the shooter entered, Ramos, was propped open by a teacher. 11:28, the suspect vehicle crashes into the ditch, as previously described. The teacher runs to the room 132 to retrieve a phone, and that same teacher walks back to the exit door, and door remains propped open.
He's blaming the teachers for this happening. This is effectively. So imagine, you're walking down the street with your girlfriend. Let's say you got game. You got a girl with a nice body, nice rear end, nice bootay. Some Debo looking nigga walks up and slaps your girl on the ass. And you don't do shit. That nigga walks away and your girl looking at you crazy. This is the equivalent of that bitch ass nigga in that situation saying, "Well, why your ass got to be so fat?" Bro, this is insanity. So you failed to do your job because you're pussies. There were even cops that were saying, "Oh, we didn't go in because we were afraid of being shot," basically. So not only are you a pussy, you're going to double down on that pussiness and blame the teachers for this happening. It's fucking unreal. If there was ever an argument, and I think there is an argument to be made for defund the police, but not the way that wokesters talk about it, not in the light they talk about it, in their hollow, unpolitical, unplanned way that they talk about it. The police are making the argument for the defund the police people. I believe I saw Socialist MMA posted a poll that defund the police, 55% approval rating amongst independents, which independents make up most of this fucking country, in case you didn't know that. You're making the argument of defund the police for these people because the people making the argument in the mainstream are fucking idiots. And you're making the argument for them when you do shit like this. And that's coming from a person. I'm not saying I'm anti defund the police, but I'm saying I'm pro defund the police in a rational, organized way. Liberals and wokesters aren't for that. And I feel like cases like Vermont show you that. Now, that is telling of a lot. So let's get to the point of what I'm saying based upon the title of the video that I showed you. Police are not there to protect and serve you. Police are there to protect and serve the ruling class. Now, let's hop to a story that I find interesting. Not just interesting, but I think it plays into not necessarily into the school shooting aspect, but I think it plays into the policing aspect, the comment I just made. You have Elon Musk that comes out. Let me share my screen. Sorry about that, guys. Sure. You have Elon Musk come out and says, Elon Musk says upcoming recession is actually a good thing and predicts how long it will last. Actually, let me go to the tweet instead of the article. All right, I guess Fox News just isn't going to put the tweet up. Here it is. So some Twitter user, I don't think you guys can see it. Hang on. Let me switch it over so you can see it. Share. Give me a second, here we go. All right, so you have a user that asked Elon Musk. Do you still think we're approaching a recession? Elon Musk responds, yes, this is actually a good thing. It has been raining money on fools for too long. Some bankruptcies need to happen. Okay, fine. That's cool. Also, all the COVID stay at home stuff. This is the retarded part. Well, not even retarded. This isn't retarded. This is who Elon is. Also, all the COVID stay at home stuff has tricked people into thinking that you don't actually need to work hard. Rude awakening inbound. How elitist of Elon Musk, who's supposed to be, this savior of the people. This billionaire is going to be the savior of our free speech. You already know how I feel about that based upon the live stream I did about that. These are the assholes that police are always going to protect. Let's go to this article. Let me switch over. Let me go to this article. And I found this article so fascinating too. The police were created to control working class and poor people, not serve and protect. Now, this is from 2015, January 6, 2015. In most of the liberal discussions of the recent police killings of unarmed black men, there is an underlying assumption that the police were supposed to protect and serve the population. That is, after all, what they were created to do. If only the normal, decent relations between the police and the community could reestablish, this problem could be resolved. Poor people in general are more likely to be the victims of crime than anyone else. This reasoning goes, and in that way, they are in more need than anyone else of police protection. Maybe there are a few bad apples, but if only the police weren't so racist or didn't carry out policies like stop and frisk or weren't so afraid of black people or shot fewer unarmed men, they could function as a useful service that we all need. This liberal way of viewing the problem rests on a misunderstanding of the origins of the police and what they were created to do. The police were not created to protect and serve the population. They were not created to stop crime, at least not as most people understand it. And they were certainly not created to promote justice. They were created to protect the new form of wage labor capitalism that emerged in the mid to late 19th century from the threat posed by that system's offspring, the working class. This is a blunt way of stating a nuanced truth, but sometimes nuance just serves to obfuscate. Before the 19th century, there were no police forces that we would recognize as such anywhere in the world. In the northern United States, there was a system of elected constables and sheriffs, much more responsible to the population in a very direct way than the police are today. In the South, the closest thing to a police force were slave patrols. Then as northern cities grew and filled with mostly immigrant wage workers who were physically and socially separated from the ruling class, the wealthy elite who ran the various municipal governments hired hundreds and then thousands of armed men to impose order. Again, As northern cities grew and filled with mostly immigrant wage workers who were physically and socially separated from the ruling class, the wealthy elite who ran the various municipal governments hired hundreds and then thousands of armed men to impose order on the new working class neighborhoods. Class conflict roiled late 19th century America's cities like Chicago, which experienced major strikes and riots in 1867, 1877, and 1886 and 1894. In each of these upheavals, the police attacked strikers with extreme violence, even if in 1877 and 1894, and the U.S. Army played a bigger role in ultimately repressing the working class. In the aftermath of these movements, the police increasingly presented themselves as a thin blue line protecting civilization, by which they meant bourgeoisie civilization, from the disorder of the working class. This ideology of order that developed in the late 19th century echoes down to today, except that today, poor Black and Latino people are the main threat rather than immigrant workers. Of course, the ruling class did not get everything it wanted and had to yield on many points to the immigrant workers it sought to control. This is why, for instance, municipal governments backed away from trying to stop Sunday drinking, and why they hired so many immigrant police officers, especially the Irish. The Irish. But despite these concessions, businessmen organized themselves to make sure the police were increasingly isolated from democratic control and established their own hierarchies, system of governance, and rules of behavior. The police increasingly set themselves off from the population by donning uniforms, establishing their own rules for hiring, promoting and firing, and investigating themselves, working to build a unique esprit de corps, and identifying themselves with order. And despite complaints about corruption and inefficiency, they gained more and more support from the ruling class, to the extent that in Chicago, for instance, businessmen donated money to buy the police rifles, artillery, Gatling guns, buildings, and money to establish a police pension out of their own pockets. And this article goes on, I think you get the gist. And I'll let me put the link to this article in the chat. Police are not there to protect you, stupid. Basically, is the point that I'm making. Posting the article in the chat now, guys. You go check it out. Posted it in the chat. The police are not there to protect you. The police are there to protect the elite class, as you can see in that picture there as well, so eloquently. Police are not there to protect you. And it's about high time Americans realize that. It's about high time the liberals realize that. It's about high time the bootlicking pro-police conservatives realize that. And I think situations like this, I think situations like January 6th, situations like the Black community forever in America, that itself, these people that claim we're all Americans and I don't see color because we're all Americans. Well, your fellow American has been crying out for damn near a century and a half, really for centuries, 3 or 4 centuries, but just in the sense of police crying out for a century and some change about this. And your thing has been, well, my cousin's a cop, so he can't be that bad. My husband's a cop, so he can't be that bad. They can't be that bad. My son is a cop, so the cops can't be bad. So when you have a rogue Gestapo force of the elite class that runs around like this, that runs around basically, they're a gang. The police are a gang. When you have, and at the same time, when you have economic rot and the social fabric deteriorating in America at a rapid rate, that's not a good mixture. And you're going to see situations like this. You're going to see situations like 2020 where the police were beating the fuck out of people, wholesale, nonstop. As the United States collapses inevitably into fascism, you're going to see more situations like this. And as you see, the situation in America get worse, you're going to see more situations like these school shootings, unfortunately. And it's sad to say this, but as Childish Gambino said, this is America, unfortunately. It's sad to say that. It really is. I don't like having to say that, but it's the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. But that is it for my monologue. For me talking, running my mouth, flapping my gums. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break and see if we could get our guest on, and I will be right back. If not, then I'll come back on and end the stream. But if he can come on, we'll come on and talk. Give me 1 second, though, guys. Be right back. All right, guys, we're back and we have our guest with us. My guy, Joshua, the CEO. Let's go ahead and get into this.
How I'm sounding? I'm sounding good.
Sound good, my guy? You
What's
live.
going on? What's going on, everybody out there? What's going on?
Yo, so how you feeling about everything I said? If you peep the whole stream, like what are your thoughts? Just tell me your thoughts right now, bro.
So I'll be honest with you. Um, First and foremost, shout out to my bro Lil Cree. Me and him talk about these things a lot, and
You
one of
should
the
tell him to come
things.
on one day, bro. I would like to
Oh,
talk to him too.
oh yeah, for sure, we definitely make that happen. Um, Definitely make that happen. So me and him talk about a lot of things that go on in the world. And ever since the mass shooting happened in Buffalo, and then the very following week, tragic situation in Texas, what bothers me the most is that when it comes to issues such as gun control and the change of the guidelines and rules against gun ownership or how you obtain a gun and the licensing and things of that nature. The one thing that correlates, and it's sad, but the one thing that always correlates to gun control is politics or policy, I'd rather say, in some way, shape, or form. Because anytime you hear about gun control a lot is when tragedy happens. A lot of politicians say,
Why do you think that is?
well, I don't think it's ever going to be a concrete answer for that. And I say that because a lot of people use that as fuel to some of their political stances if it's a person who's currently running, or already in office.
You see
A
that
lot of
with
people.
you see that with Beto O'Rourke. You saw him crash the governor's
I did.
his yeah.
I did.
I'm like, and I said
And
this in the stream
mhm.
earlier. I was like, this is like the epitome of the liberal stance right now. They're literally using this as a way to basically say fuck Republicans, right?
I agree.
And I'm saying that because like I think that's because like they woke up and chose pettiness this morning in terms of these mass shootings going on because of the abortion thing. So this is the thing that the liberals can yell at Democrats about, and abortion is the thing that the Republicans and conservatives can yell at liberal. It's a back and forth thing. It's a tennis ball in the court, but unfortunately, it leaves Americans who are either apolitical or independents just watching as the ball goes back and forth, but nothing
Right.
actually gets
It's
done.
it's kind of like those like those things that a lot of doctors have in their office where it's the three balls, one on the left, the right, and in the middle. And like I look at it like this. You have Republicans and you have Democrats, and the ball that's in the middle is gun control. And if you swing the ball, the one in the middle is not going to move. But the ones to the left, the one that you made hit the ball in the middle,
I know what John you're talking about. Yeah.
and then the ball that's in front of the one in the middle, they're going to move. That's Republicans and Democrats going back and forth on whatever their stance is about gun control. Because however you flip it, spin it, or put it, there has to be real implemented change, but the change does not even start in
gun control, in my
right.
opinion.
And it's like the change, to be honest, I don't even think the change would even start in politics, because you got to think it's never going to be one-sided. When it comes to politics, it's all about being argumentative and who's right and who can sway the people to think that they're right.
Very true.
Because it's never really a right or wrong, because everyone's entitled to a choice. But what bothers me the most about this is that, and I'm gonna be blunt. I know I'm gonna be blunt on here because I know that's how you are. I feel like the sarcastic irony, the BS type of rhetoric. Are we allowed to curse? I don't know if they're allowed. I don't want them to flag. Oh, it's okay. Like
I've been calling cops pussies the whole stream, bro. You good?
like the fucking narrative kills me, because the way that people go back and forth and complain all of that about gun control is literally similar to like the Black Lives Matter movement. Because no matter if you have an argument that stands for it or argument that you stands against it, no common ground is ever met. And that's the biggest thing of it all. No one's ever going to agree on gun control. Some people believe in owning guns. Some people believe not. Some people believe that if you're 18, you can go buy one. And some people, in ways such as myself, I believe that, yes, you should be 18 to buy one, but background checks and more vital background checks should be definitely applied. But one thing I do want to say as well is, just like I was talking to Cree, people are bitches. This is the most bitchified country on this planet. You're telling me that you hear gunshots going on in an elementary school and you are armed Texan and Texan guns this and guns that. I carry my gun to the liquor store. I carry my gun to church. All these gun-toting Texans, and not one of y'all felt like y'all could go and try to assist the police.
Wait. Hang on. Even if so, parents were trying to do that. The problem was the fucking police who stood outside for an hour as this guy killed fucking kids.
No, I agree.
No, what I'm saying is the actual parents, they were arresting parent. They tased the parent outside.
I seen that. And I hate to say it like that, but from what I saw, I get it. They a couple parents did try. But for those couple parents that tried, look at the multitude of them that still stood there. That's just like if you have one person who stands up and does something different than what we've all been seeing, but we already know in the back of our mind it's going to be another 200 to 300 people that's not going to do shit. And
that's what I think that's a product of, though. I don't think that's a product of Americans necessarily being pussified. I don't agree. I don't disagree with you on that to some degree, but in this specific situation, I think it's a product. If you look at a lot of these Hispanic, because I know there were liberals on Twitter that were trashing one of the parents whose daughters died. He was like a super cop guy, super pro Blue Lives Matter guy. He was like Mexican too. So I think this is a testament to how, you have a lot of conservative minority people, but I think this is a testament to how so many Americans have a misunderstanding and misconception of what the police actually fucking are.
Right.
The police are a Gestapo force for the ruling class, for the elite class. The more capital you have, the more money you have, the better experiences you're going to have with police. And that's just a fact of the matter.
And shout out Derek Grace. He's one of my biggest mentors and just people that I overall admire when it comes to unraveling the BS that is the U.S. government and really seeing it for what it is. Because he says it a lot. He says he just did a video on the Buffalo mass shooting. He said he said something along the lines of like, you can have little Timmy, who's a valedictorian, straight A's in school, does not mean little Timmy's not going to get robbed 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So what people got to understand is that at the end of the day, we're human. You have to, and I repeat, you have to put politics aside and look at it from a personal standpoint. Just like you cannot go into a situation like this being President Biden. You have to come into this situation as Joseph. Because whenever you put a political stance behind a narrative or thought, it's never going to have a common ground.
And that's fascinating that you say that. So I get you said put politics aside, but I'm going to contradict that and say let's actually get into the politics.
Okay.
I think the root cause of situations like this, honestly, is Americans, like their incessant fervor of violence, our worship of violence. But not just in our media, not just in our culture, not John Wick blowing people's heads off because they killed his dog, not Mike Lowry just shooting up a bunch of people because, hey, I'm Mike Lowry, not John McClane throwing people off roofs because he's a cop. I mean, the inherent, the excitement we have when we have this perceived ideology of a group of people and our government declares war on them and murder. Like, how many mass killings of women and children do we do as the empire every day? Like, we're helping Saudi Arabia commit a genocide right now in Yemen. We fund Israel to do what they do. Israel just shot a journalist's face off. They shot her in the face, knowing she was a journalist, knowing that she exposes their war crimes, shot her in the face. No investigation, nothing's going to happen. They have to go to the ICC to get some form of justice, which they're actually not going to get justice, even if they do find Israel guilty. They're not going to get no justice for this woman. Go back to Iraq. We killed 1 million Iraqis. You know, we praise violence, you know, in countries that we don't like Russia. We hope Ukraine. We just sent billions of dollars of $40 billion of arms to a bunch of Nazis in Ukraine.
Yep, and
that's an aspect that I feel like goes into the whole government aspect, right? So you have the super pro gun people that are like, we need our guns so we can protect ourselves from the government. My personal opinion, you already know that I'm a pro 2A guy. That's the most asinine, ridiculous shit I've ever heard in my fucking life. All right, bet. All right, you want your gun so you can protect yourself from the government. Look at the fucking Ukrainians. How was that faring with them against Russia? You're talking about the Ukrainian government who has NATO arms. So better armaments than the fucking, like, they actually have like more advanced weaponry. And when it comes to actual firearms, they have better firearms than an AR-15 you could buy in America. That's not faring well for them against one of the top 3 superpowers in the world. So you think some fuck in bumblefuck Arizona or wherever is going to fend off the United States military if it ever comes down to that? If they're anything like the police, you know, they might just stand outside your house for an hour when they try to come take your guns, you know, not do anything and wait for somebody else to come do it. You know, maybe fucking Santa Claus might come take you down, whatever. But that argument to me is just the most complete asinine shit I've ever heard in my life. It's so dumb because it's like, bro, you're not going to beat the government with your fucking AR-15. You could die trying, which I'm sure a lot of those people are willing to do. But this concept that we have to keep allowing kids to die, you know, we have to keep allowing people to die so you can have this, cling on to this, honestly, Hollywoodization, like, fetish of fighting the government somehow is completely and utterly ridiculous in my opinion.
No, most certainly. And my whole thing is also, and this is a PSA. I don't know if we have anybody in here or we got a few people in here. If we do, shout out to everybody that's in here. Here's my PSA to the general public. It's a couple things you just got to face. You got to choose, you know, perception versus reality. You got to choose reality. The government's not shit. They never have been shit. They've never been on nobody's side, if you want to be technical. At the end of the day, and within the law, of course, you have to really step out on your own footing and do what needs to be done. Because you can throw politics in there. You can throw emotion in there. It's not going to change the narrative of mass shootings have been happening and they're going to continue happening, and they happen every day. Because a lot of people forget mass shootings are shootings that involve massive casualties. And in some states, they consider that 2, 3, 4 people in one incident. But
so going off that logic, let me ask you this.
Yep.
How do you feel about the people whenever a mass shooting happens? I feel like they couldn't do it in this certain scenario because there wasn't no like race dynamics involved with this per se. But how do you feel about the people whenever you talk about mass shootings and they're like, but Chicago, right? Those people. What is your response to those people when they say that? Like, what is your response? How do you feel? Go into that for me.
Well, and I will gladly answer that. I look at it as this. If you can say so Chicago, you can also say so Baltimore, so St. Louis, so Compton. Chicago's not the only inner city that has a high rate of gun violence a year.
Well, that's what I meant by that, like cities like Chicago, but that's the
right.
argument.
No, right. And so with that, I say that to say that you have to look at the particulars around these situations. When you talk about cities like Chicago or certain areas of New York or the Comptons, you have people who work in those districts, who represent those local governments, who won't step foot in those areas. Now, when you hear of a mass shooting, especially school related, have you ever heard of a mass shooting happen at a school that's not in a predominantly white or suburban area? You've never heard of a mass shooting going on in a hood area or urban area school. You can look it up. A lot of the primary school shootings happen in predominantly white or suburban area schools where it's a nice mixture of, different races, or more lenient towards one race depending on the area, but never in no bad.
I think it's just upper class, honestly.
Right. And people and this is another narrative I hate too. A lot of people be like, well, you got all these people in the hood who gets their hands on guns and can easily obtain a gun and do bad with it. And even if that is true, because you can definitely throw a lot of arguments at that, look at the other flip side of the coin, where you got people who have been, like you said, the upper class families who has the father who likes to hunt, so he has the nice extensive gun collection that little Jimmy just so happens to take to school because he feels like.
I was gonna say, or little, what was his name, Salvador, whatever the fuck this little nigga name was.
Mm-hmm.
That nigga didn't have any documented, mental health stuff or any like arrest or anything, so he was able to go fucking buy it.
Right, and I can get why people are up in arms about that, but my thing is, okay, so it's like for every pro, there's a con. You can say, I feel like people who buy guns should get mental health checks. Well, what if a person lies their way through that just to obtain a gun, because you do that, and then next thing you know, they start going batshit crazy, and you find out that they did have mental illness the whole time.
Or what if they bought the gun and they weren't mentally ill and they went through some shit after they bought that gun,
and now they're mentally ill? And
yeah,
and so it's never, you're never going to get a concrete 100% better way.
But let me bring this point up. I'll bring this point up. Give you just walk through the scenario with me. So when I hear those people say that, right, and it's usually like, white conservatives or the conservatives, the Candace Owens, Officer Tatum types and shit like that. By the way, did you see Officer Tatum, bro? This nigga was trying to make an excuse for why those cops weren't pussies. It was the most utterly bootlicking minstrel show Sambo bullshit I've ever seen in my life, bro. I'm like, bro. Same thing with Candace Owens trying to basically basically saying the country's mentally ill and kids are doing school shootings because trans issues. Those people are just people you ignore. Like, I'm not saying censor those people. What I'm saying is they're dumb. That's what I'm saying. But to the people that say that, right? But Chicago, but St. Louis, but Compton, all these things. Why I say acknowledge that. Yes, you're right. Why is it the fact that when you look into these cases, most of the time these guns were previously taken off the street? All right, bet. That gun was taken off the street, regardless of whether the serial number was scratched off, whatever. They found some way to track this and say that this gun was taken off the street, right? All right, cool. How did that gun get back onto the street? Did fucking the Tooth Fairy come in and take the guns and say, here you go, take all the guns you want? Or is it corrupt ass police officers that are usually involved in a lot of these gun trafficking rings that are literally reselling the guns back into the community to make a profit off of it? Same thing with the drugs. They do the same thing with drugs. Also, are we going to ignore the history of us funding cartels to go to go kill off and fight other cartels in Mexico that we don't like? You do know that Mexico recently sued the United States, right? For the influx of guns from like gun shows and shit coming across the border. But the president of Mexico also wrote a letter condemning the United States for its Fast and Furious project, which basically the whole idea of that was to give a bunch of guns to a bunch of cartel people, right? Just sell them guns, but put trackers in them so we could track and see where they are. Well, conveniently, they were leaving behind the guns with the trackers on them, right? How did they know which guns had trackers on them and which ones didn't?
And the plot thickens.
Exactly. So my thing is, instead of trying to get into this dumbass, in my opinion, racist ideology of trying to just say black, minorities are inherently more violent, that bullshit. Why are we not talking about the constant, government? It's like the CIA guy from Don't Be a Menace that they say kill Tupac and shit, like that white guy, right? It's like that guy. It's almost cartoonish how they portrayed it in that film, but in many ways it's like that, right? Am I wrong in assuming that?
No, not at all.
So I'm just going along the narrative that yes, these things are governmentally created when it comes to like a lot of the Chicago situations and things like that. But I also think that at the same time, when it comes to the school shootings though, like this, because this is where I felt like me and you kind of diverged. I don't think the government orchestrated this. I think this is just who America is. Like Bino said it best. This is America. He showed you in that video. Like,
but here's what I will say. I don't think they necessarily orchestrated it, but the government feeds off of these kind of situations.
oh yeah, for
because as you see, when these kind of things happen, they start pushing, like you said, all these agendas, and somehow, some way, all of these mass shootings, well, school related shootings, always happen around, whether it's primary elections or if it's a fucking governor running. Shit always happens.
Well, they happen all the time. It's just when the media decides to amplify the story.
Right. That's why I said these type of mass shootings, because mass shootings always happen. But I saw school related, or if it's a business or something of a large stature, because you can't cover it all. But school shootings and things like massacres like this, or what happened in Buffalo, always happen around the time as somebody somewhere is running for a political seat.
But see, that's still kind of contradictory to me when you say that, because if they happen all the time, I don't see the government influencing it outside of getting their little media poodles to say, hey, amplify this story, right? Is that what you're saying?
And in a way, yes, I can agree with that, because like I said, they're like, the reason why I say that,
because I think I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think when you try to pin it on the government orchestrating it and things like that, in my honest opinion, I think you're giving the government too much credit. Like these guys are idiots. They're morons.
No, see, I'm glad you said that, because the government's sloppy as shit, and they're getting desperate now. They're getting desperate. But what I'm saying is that I'm not saying orchestrated in a literal sense. I'm saying that, like, you might as well give them the gun and say they did it. Only because it's like, when these things happen, somehow, some way, they're going to find a way to feed off it. They're going to find a way to make it look like they care, they do something, just like the BS speech that coon ass Harris made. Don't get me started on Camel. Don't get me started on her.
Camel Toe Harris. We did it, Joe. We fucked the country. We did it.
And it's like, it gets me mad, because it's just like, at the end of the day, the biggest thing that you can take away from all of this, and I'm just saying to Americans, anybody out there, like, if you don't own a weapon, get one.
I feel that, bro.
Sit your kids down and have these discussions with them. I was looking at guns earlier and told my daughter, this is a gun. This ain't to be played with. One day I'm going to teach you how to properly use this in the case that you have to use one. Sit your kids down. Tell them that it's warfare going on out here.
So let me ask you this.
Yep.
How do you feel about the countries like for example, you have countries like China, you have countries like Vietnam, you have countries like Laos, and a couple other ones that have just outright banned guns. Civilians aren't allowed to have guns. How do you feel about that?
Well, one could like the ideal. The ideal is no guns. Woo 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 woo. And I look at it as, you also have to look at their political structures and how they run things, because it's very different than here. If we had our political foundations similar to theirs in certain ways, then the idea of banning guns wouldn't be something that's so far-fetched.
And then the culture there is very, like, it's not a hyper individual. So I feel like the reason why you get a lot of people that say China is authoritarian and how they treat their people and things like that, what they don't realize is that a lot of those Asian cultures, and I'm saying this because I've heard Asian people talk about this, they're a very collective society. They're a very collective culture. They don't believe in the hyper individualism, the hyper rugged individualism that we have here, like in the West, but specifically in America. They believe we move as one type of deal. So I feel like people like to make the correlation that, well, you see what happens, authoritarianism reigns. I don't think that's it, because you don't for the most part see a lot of Chinese people, for the most part, protesting the government for guns. You don't. And contrary to popular belief, people are allowed to protest in China. Contrary to popular belief. Just like in the Soviet Union, there were a lot of political debates that transpired in what was the former Soviet Union, what's now the Russian Federation. But they're very vastly different culture. They're different culturally there. I feel like in many ways they value life more than we do here in the West. We commodify life. We constantly seek this value in life in terms of what can you do for me, instead of just a life being precious because it's life. You feel me?
No, you're not wrong at all. And I just look at it as, like I said, Americans, you got to sit down with your kids now. Tell them straight up. And I ain't sugarcoating. I'm like, look, people out here shooting up schools. And here's another thing. And this is to the school districts. Fuck that bullshit ass lockdown training that we all went through growing. First and foremost,
I remember that, yeah.
First and foremost, let's be real. Salvador, he probably most likely went to that elementary school, which means he knew it like the back of his hand.
Well, you know why he went there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So apparently he thought it was supposed to be. So they have a thing there where the seniors in the high school actually go to the elementary school.
Yep, and I'm familiar with that. Yep.
Yeah, so he thought that allegedly he thought that was what was going on that day. And when he got there, obviously it wasn't happening, so he just did what he did. So,
and
I'll continue. I'm sorry to cut you off. Continue.
No, you're fine. And I look at it like schools need to. Okay, so there's a school I saw that put millions of dollars into the state-of-the-art security system and in security training, which actually looks fucking magnificent. I'm gonna tag you in this on Facebook. Okay. Like it's like cameras everywhere. They got certain zones in the school where if they did in the security cameras are monitored by the sheriff's department. But then I thought to myself, what about school districts that are poorly funded?
Exactly.
That can't afford something like that. So that's why I look at things like this. First things first. Schools can be poorly funded, but you can put out. This is what I don't understand. And matter of fact, here's my whole plan. If I was like a mayor or something, this is what I would try to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would first, every school is going to have a metal detector, or at least an officer or a licensed guard to search and frisk everyone, and just make sure nobody has no weapons.
And not just in fucking black schools.
Nope, not just in no hood.
They've been there in the hood schools for years.
Not in no East Side high ass schools. No, everywhere.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I would have officers come in and have them, because mind you, I never understood this. Why are teachers and staff teaching us about a lockdown drill instead of a person who goes through this shit every day, a police officer? Why aren't they there showing kids tips on how to be safe and what to do in the event of that? Now here's another.
See, that's the thing though. But you see how the cops reacted to that shit. Are they the best?
Okay, that I agree. But the reason why I'm saying this is because it's a start. Because when you're a kid, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a policeman. So when they come in and talk to you, they have that experience.
I'm whooping my child's ass. He ever come to me and say that I want to be a cop, I'm whooping his ass. That's
beside the point. And it's like, a child's going to be like, okay, well, he's an actual policeman versus Mr. Dunlap, the history teacher. You know what I'm saying? He's just saying what, and let's be real, bro. Them lockdown drills are ass. You're telling me to hide under a desk like they can't shoot me from under the desk. You're telling us, let's cover the window, guys, so they can make it seem. First of all, if the window's covered, that's obvious. The shooter's going to know that niggas is in there. Use your brain. They need to come up with better safety mechanisms.
Man, fuck that. I'm fighting that nigga. I'm going down fighting.
And you know what's crazy? I've only heard it said once in my life as far as going to school. Because someone in my class asked, what do we do if it's a lockdown but we're in the hallway?
Exactly.
They said go to the nearest bathroom and hide.
Like that's not the first place that nigga's going to look.
And I always wonder that because the high school I went to, Penn, is the biggest high school in Delaware. But you see, if you're on that bottom floor, oh yeah, you're home free because there's so many different exits and doors on our bottom floors. Now, if you upstairs, you might have to jump. You might have to jump out a window, might break something.
Damn.
But because you got no choice but to go downstairs.
See, I went to Middletown, so we only had like one floor, literally. So
right, like
well, we had the top. We had the top floor, but they had like mad exits and shit. So
right, like you got no choice but to either jump out the window or like and then not only that, like you better hope that window opens up all the way. You don't got time to be trying to findle and finagle. Like that's why I'm like, look, I'm breaking this window, my ass is out running.
But that's the thing though. So we talk about, you got kids. See, I find it so hypocritical, and especially from conservatives. And again, I'm not here just to just to attack conservatives, but you have conservatives that talk about, I want to pull my child out of school and homeschool my child because I'm afraid they'll be taught about CRT or about trans and LGBTQ issues. But like, they're perfectly fine with sending their kid to school with mass shootings going on. That is, and to me, shows the brain of America has been broken. I'm not making the argument, like, if you don't want your kid to learn about certain things, fine, whatever. Like, that's your prerogative. But the fact that you're more concerned about gay people and about your kid learning about CRT than your kid possibly getting his muffin cap peeled back, that's completely and utterly, like, that shows you the brain of America. America is I say this all the time. America is a failed country with nukes, bro. Yep. That's utter insanity to me. And it's like, I feel like this is a product of the culture war. This is a product of people like Candace Owens. And I guess I'll say we'll go for about 10 more minutes.
No, you get that.
Let me get your opinion on that. So how do you feel about these? And this is a completely different conversation, separate from the school shooting thing. So if you had any final thoughts on that, you just go. I would say go ahead and close it out now because I kind of want to get on this topic with you before we hop off. So did you have any more thoughts on the school shooting aspect and things like that?
I just feel like parents should just sit down with their kids, talk to them about safety measures, teach your kids how to use weapons, teach your kids how to dial 911. You can text 911 now. There's different apps that got a secret emergency buttons to where even if you got to give your child one of them life alert kind of things where you hit the button and it alerts the authorities, give it to them. I feel like schools should provide that. I feel like local sheriff's departments should come up with the device or partner up with a major company and really give kids these. You know how in the beginning of the school year when they give you your syllabus and all of that, you need to give kids these safety measures, anything that can help them, because you never know when a child's in a like I said, you could be in roaming in the hallways and something happened, and you're not in a classroom with a teacher telling you what to do. And they need to spruce up these lockdown trainings and stuff like that, and add realistic situations. Like, you never hear them say jump out of a window. You find something to break the window, jump out of a window. You can spend $5 and get one of those mechanisms where it's a seatbelt cutter and a window breaker. You can fit it right in your pocket. It'll break any glass. All you gotta do is tap it, break it, and then you hop out. Boom, scot free. People don't think that. Like, I always thought that, like, you're telling me to hide under a desk and hide in a corner. What is that going to do? It's not. And the parents need to also protect your kids. There's little bulletproof padding that you can insert within your child's book bag. So in case anything happens, they got a good chance of surviving, and it's just it's just literally the simple shit, common sense shit. But that's it. That's all I say for that though.
So as we say that, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this comment up on the screen so people can see it. To the host, you are wrong. Candace is not the reason kids are going postal. Trust me, she may piss you off, but she is right about most of her takes on society. Forget about her feelings. Josh, let me ask you this. Did I ever once say that Candace Owens is the reason for kids going postal in America? Did I ever say that?
No, you did not.
I'm just making sure.
A lot of the, media.
I'm kind of lit right now, so sometimes words just
come
you're
out,
good. I'm pretty sure I didn't say that.
It's and Candace is one of those like wading in the water type people. It's like she's for everything good that she says that has good viewpoints. It's
There's
she
a
got some
trail of retardation that follows behind it.
big time, and it's big time, and it just gets on my damn nerves sometimes. But to the Seeker 2020, is that him, the gentleman with the Great Gatsby hat?
Yeah, motherfucker look like Jude Law and shit.
He looked like Professor Plum. But that's no, just joking. But but it's just that I don't get why people act like Candace Owens wasn't caught in a few lies herself about
Bro,
her.
it's
Because
crazy,
last
bro.
time I checked, I remember she had Brother Al Sharpton in the local NAACP chapter in her area having her back because of some incident that happened when she was in high school, if I'm not mistaken.
Of kids being racist to her.
Yeah. Oh, but all of a sudden she but look at the pot calling the kettle black.
But it's like that's the thing though. So it's like I've said on this channel before that there are things that I agree with Candace Owens on. But unfortunately, the point that I'm bringing up, I'm not in my feelings. I'm in logic and reason where Candace Owens is not. Candace Owens, for whatever reason, I'm not saying it's for financial incentivization, but I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't the case. For whatever reason, Candace Owens decides to double and oftentimes triple down on the culture war things. Like, for example, you have people that you have an economic situation going on right now. That's been going on in America, honestly, for years, from president to fucking president. The fact that you focus on these culture war issues like most Americans can't feed their fucking kids right now. I don't think they give a fuck about trans people right now. I'll go out on a limb and say that. I think most people really don't give a fuck about a lot of the culture war stuff that she's talking about. And that's the same thing, vice versa, for on whatever liberal equivalent to Candace Owens there is out there, But the point I like to make about Candace Owens is that at the end of the day, Candace Owens is what is a servant for a certain faction of the ruling class in America. And until people realize that most of these talking heads, there are some good people out there. I think there's a couple good people out there doing good work. But for the most part, a lot of these talking heads, regardless of whether they're on CNN or YouTube or where the fuck ever, a lot of these people aren't actually speaking on real issues and are not actually if you're not anti-establishment, if you're not anti-elite class, if you're not anti-billionaires, what are you doing? What are you doing? If you're out here, if you're telling your people that, you think Elon Musk is going to be some bastion of, free speech and shit like that. Like, if you're not educating your people on that, what are you really doing? In my opinion, that's just me speaking logically. Like, for me, understanding how power generally works, I'm not going to go out and tell my people to start, dick riding Elon Musk because now you can say whatever you want on Twitter. Because at the end of the day, as soon as you challenge the established order, the established order's narrative, as soon as you challenge the establishment narrative, you're going to get yeeted off that platform. But regardless, the point that I'm making is, at the end of the day, Candace Owens is still pro-imperialist. Candace Owens is still pro-American exceptionalism. American exceptionalism. See, my vision for America. My vision for America is not, and even though I lean more Marxist and communist, I think you know that, Josh. You definitely know that from the conversations we have
for sure.
privately. But my vision of America is not blind loyalty to a nation. It's not blind patriotism. It's not blind nationalism. My ideology is rallying the nation around causes that empower the working class. My vision for America is empowering people on coming together, not division. Class war, wake up. I love that. Thank you, bro. I'm gonna throw this This is what I'm saying. Candace Owens is not speaking to that. That's all I'm saying here. Candace Owens is not speaking to that. Candace Owens is still literally one of Candace Owens' points. And this is why I talked about this on my China stream. I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you go when I finish this. I know I'm rambling on, Josh, but I'm gonna let you go.
No, you're good. You're good.
But in my China Taiwan thing I was talking about, and I've talked about it on the channel before, Candace Owens, she's right on Russia for the most part. I would say she's 90% right. Most of the Trump people are about 90% right on Russia. The problem is that these people are still, they exude the same amount of hawkishness and warmongering that Democrats have towards Russia. They exude that towards China. That's the problem. You feel me? Like one side hates Russia, the other side hates China, when really both sides hate both countries. They're warmongering towards both countries because right now China and Russia is fucking up the money of America. Okay. They're fucking up the business interest. But this is where the class divide comes in. You have China fucking up the manufacturing, people, the people that, like, for the most part make shit, and for a long time we're using China to make their shit. And then you have like the big oil companies that don't like Russia. You have the big, natural resources people that don't, ruling class part that don't like Russia for that reason. They want to cut Russia out of the, oil markets in Europe and things like that for that reason. So stop being a pawn of Bonapartism. I don't think I've ever talked to you about Bonapartism, Josh, but Bonapartism is this basically not class war, this divide that is between the ruling class, and they basically manipulate different factions of the working class against each other to serve their own interests. But at the end of the day, it's always going to serve that class. I say this all the time. Billionaires and millionaires, they show class solidarity. The working class seems to have a problem with that, and that it saddens me. It saddens me because, like, if we can move like they do, shit would actually change in this country. I say that shit all the time. If we can stay on code as working class people, bro, we can move mountains and oceans, bro. But unfortunately, in America, this hyper individualism that we believe in, I don't think it allows that to happen. I think that's by design. So what's your thoughts on that? On whatever you're thinking right now, bro? Go ahead and let it fly.
I just feel like Candace Owens, she be like, for example, I don't get it, because it's like she does it to herself. She always, like you said, has great talking points, and then just comes out of nowhere with straight utter bullshit. And then
it always circles back to shitting on her own people. That's
right.
The problem.
And it's like, what are you getting out of that? And then she has the nerve to go at other people who do the same thing, but you do it yourself. Like, she's the supreme hypocrite. And it's like, it's so many. And then not even just her. Who else gets under my skin is Tommy Lahren. She's another one who gets she gets under my skin a little bit, because anything they say, it's they just need to have like a group. Like how people go on summer vacations, you go to a beach house. They need to just do a reality show where that beach house has the.
Oh my God, that would be so ill,
where
bro.
the house, like the house has the Candace Owens of the world and the Tommy Lahrens of the world.
Bro, that would be so lit.
Throw Mark Lamont Hill in there, and you can throw
like
Roland
real world
Martin,
type shit.
Van Lathan, throw him in there, or Van Jones, throw him in there too.
Oh my God, Van Jones is the biggest. He don't know what to do with himself, bro.
And what's crazy? The one person who be making the most sense when he be like talking about a lot of people is the Judge Joe Brown.
He's a real one though. He
went on a black news channel and debated Mark Lamont Hill and shut him down.
I know he's a person that would I feel like we would have disagreements. He's more in line of thinking with like the ADOS people, which I don't disagree with ADOS on a lot of things. On most things I don't agree with them on. I just think that the issues we're facing, especially black people, is more relatable to class than solely race. Am I saying that like race doesn't play a part? That's not what I'm saying. But I think most of the issues we face as black people in America derives from class. So I think that's where me and him would disagree. But for the most part, I think we would agree on things. But you know how those people take a very extreme stance when you disagree with them on one thing. It's kind of like you a coon and shit. So
yeah, and it's like, You win some, you lose some. Can't agree with everybody, but
He's a real one. Joe Brown's a real one.
Joe Brown. Oh yeah, for sure.
You ever fuck with Jason Black?
Heard of him.
You should peep his channel. I think you will fuck with him. I don't listen to him often because, again, he goes too far into the strictly race stuff for me. I agree with him on some things. I disagree with him on others, but he's another one that I think is good. But but this is a credit to how diverse politically Black people are, right? You feel me?
Yep.
Like I feel like you talk to somebody like me, I come from more of the, nowadays more of the Marxist angle, more of the socialist angle and things like that. And I picked that ideology up because I learned that the people I looked up to, people like Malcolm X, people like Fred Hampton, the Black Panthers, we weren't taught even by our own people that these are the ideologies that they subscribe to. You feel me? And when I learned that, it really opened my eyes up to a lot of things when it comes to that stuff. But like in terms of the of what I was saying, just how diverse politically people are, but it's also, yes, those people can be diverse. I think having a Candace Owens is a good thing, in my opinion. Is a not necessarily a net positive, but it's a good thing for different ideas to be out there to actually sift through those ideas and pick out the bad ones and the good ones. Where Candace Owens, when she speaks on the dynamics of family, of the Black family in America, I think a lot of the things she talks about, she's correct on. But unfortunately, why that situation is where I diverge from her. You feel me? I don't believe in this hyper capitalist that she, I don't believe in the capitalism she preaches, basically. I think a lot of her talking points when it comes to that is easily done. Like you saw her get fucking utterly demolished by Russell Brand. I don't know if you ever seen that video. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
That when she went on Joe Rogan, they even had a little debate, not necessarily about Joe Rogan destroyed her when it came to the climate change stuff, like just utterly fucking destroyed her. But they had conversations about like I don't think government is inherently bad, and I think the problem is that it's not that government is doing bad shit just because the government woke up and decided to do bad shit. I think here in America and in the West, our governments are controlled by the capital, the people who have all the capital, the capitalists.
Now
that's the problem. Go ahead.
No, two questions. One, are you familiar with a gentleman named Charlie Kirk?
Yes, I know about Charlie Kirk. Yeah.
Oh no, because she's currently on tour with him.
She actually used to be part of his thing, his little media brand he had. She used to be a part of that. Now I think she's with Ben Shapiro now.
She's on Daily Wire.
Yeah, she's with Ben Shapiro. And I disagree with Ben Shapiro on most of the shit he says, but in terms of how that man built his brand, I respect it to some degree. But it's like when I look at Candace Owens, I look at the people she is the benefactor of, or she's being, who she's being paid by, who writes her checks. It's very, I don't like to call, and I already called her a conservative, but like it seems like you're tap dancing for somebody. You feel me? That's what it seems like to me. Even if you do believe some of the stuff she says, right? And again, I think it's very, it doesn't serve anybody to, these people that sit here and shit on Candace Owens all day. Like it doesn't help anybody. If anything, it empowers her. You feel me? It gives her more clout in a certain, it's the whole Kardashian effect, right? The more you talk about them, the more power they get. You feel me? You take away their power by not talking about them. But I just thought it was interesting because I feel like we talk about this on the phone all the time. So, but I don't know, man. I just feel like, when it comes to Candace Owens, it's very like, like the guy said, the Secret 2020 guy, like it's nothing. It's nothing about, I'm critiquing Candace Owens because I'm saying if you claim to care about the American people like you do, if you claim to care about the Black community like you do, if you're not just out there, regurgitating talking points from, the white men that you get your check from, which it looks like, and more than likely is what you're doing. If you actually care, then you wouldn't be saying the things you say. You would recognize that it's capitalism that is destroying the Black community. Like that's what it is. I read this book called How Capitalism Underdeveloped the Black Community. I think that book is basically an extension of Lenin's imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, because that is what is happening and has been happening to the black community since our footprint in America forever, basically, at that, to that extent. So I guess I'll close my thoughts out on there. If you had any closing thoughts, man.
Oh nah, bro. Just appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, you're doing wonderful work. Keep it up, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, man. It's been your guy, Bendu, Joshy, the CEO. Joshy, we gonna talk, bro. You already know we about to talk. So,
Yes, sir.
all right, man. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. We did almost a 2-hour stream today. I was only planning on having it short, but fuck it. Guys, it's been a pleasure having you on the stream. Everybody that commented, even Secret 2020, even though I don't agree with your assessment of what I was saying, because I don't believe that I said that at all. But regardless, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for commenting. Hamza, as always, it's a pleasure, bro. Thank you so much. Guys, as always, like, subscribe, and share. I've said this in the past. This is, bro. Bendu on the topic of school. Yeah, I've never said that, but okay. Thank you guys for tuning. I literally please, people in the comments, let me know if I blamed. This is the product of Culture Wars. This is a product of Candace Owens. Okay. I guess I'm blaming school shootings on Candace Owens now. I literally never said that. But thanks for your comment, bro. I appreciate it. Guys, as always, like, subscribe, and share. Emphasis on the share, guys. If you love seeing this content, if you would wish to support this content, it would be appreciated if you go on Patreon. There's extra content on there. Thank you, bro. Thank you. And I appreciate, bro. Critique me. Iron sharpens iron, bro. I appreciate that shit. I love that shit. I welcome it. Next time I have a stream, if you're willing to come on, we can come on and talk about it. It's just that I would have had you on tonight, bro. I'm tired. We hopping off, but I should be streaming tomorrow. I might stream tomorrow. So if I'm on tomorrow, look out for the stream tomorrow. I would love to have you on so we can have a conversation about it. Let me know. I'll go on Instagram, American Autopsy. You'll find me on there. Twitter, American Autopsy. Let me know. If you like seeing this content, guys, like I said, like, subscribe, and share. Also go on to Patreon. The Patreon is live. Everything on there is for free. I don't believe in putting things behind the paywall, but if you would like, a contribution would be appreciated. If you would also like to contribute, we have a Cash App link down below as well. Contributions are always welcome and appreciated to keep the show going. All that jazz. Had to plug the show. I don't like sitting on here doing that, but have to plug the show, guys. Man, I appreciate everybody here that watched, that commented. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and peace. Be easy.